The Beatles are considered the most popular band of all time, but how could a group of 20-year-old British boys take America by storm and change American culture in a matter of years? This video about the Beatles tour in America attempts to discuss and answer that question. On February 7, 1964, the Beatles arrived at John F. Kennedy Airport. Upon landing there, an estimated 3,000 crazy fans greeted the Beatles. The moment the Beatles stepped off that plane, something called Beatlemania had begun. Their songs were already topping the charts and were beginning to make their way on national radio. Americans began to fall in love with the Beatles because of their dashing looks and their charming personalities.
I'll ask a question. Would you be quiet first?
Could you please sing something?
No! Sorry.
Next question. We can sing.
No, we need money first.
What do you think of the comment that you're nothing but a bunch of British Elvis Presley?
It's not true. It's not true.
After landing at the airport, the Beatles agreed to appear on The Ed Sullivan Show on February 9, 1964. As soon as this was set in stone, 50,000 ticket requests were put in for a studio that could only hold 700 people. Their performance on The Ed Sullivan Show was watched by an estimated 73 million viewers in 23 million homes. But if you were actually in the studio, you could not even hear the Beatles.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles!
The Beatles were a sensation in America. Immediately following The Ed Sullivan Show, everyone wanted a piece of them. They did interviews, press conferences, and even kept recording songs and making hit records. They sold out Carnegie Hall and Shea Stadium, but most importantly, the Beatles were changing America's culture.
Do you think the Beatles are out of style?
Never, they'll never go out of style.
Tell me the truth now. Which group do you like better than the Beatles?
The Beatles, all the time, I love them.
Don't you think this whole Beatle craze is sort of silly and strictly for girls?
No, not really. I think they're very talented musicians and talented songwriters and excellent showmen.
You like them?
Yeah,
How long do you think they can last?
as long as they keep playing, they'll last.
You know, the Beatles bring joy into the world. The happiness. We forget our cares when we hear Beatle records. They're fun.
Tell me this. How long do you think the Beatles can last?
Well, I wish they'd last forever. They could bring happiness to everybody.
Teenagers in America became obsessed with the Beatles. They would follow the Beatles everywhere, they began dressing like them, and they also began thinking and acting like them. Kids were sent home from school for coming into school with a haircut like the Beatles, and they became so popular that even one of the main members claimed that they were bigger than Jesus. The Beatles began a new wave of thinking and acting amongst the youth of America. The Beatles really inspired the youth to be themselves and express themselves, not caring what older people think. They aspired to be like the Beatles. After their American trip, the Beatles became a worldwide sensation. Besides having cultural impacts on American teenagers and young adults, the Beatles also influenced many other things. They changed the music industry on its head by pushing the creative boundaries of music and having a new perspective on life. The Beatles influenced people to think introspectively and about the world as a whole. The Beatles were ahead of their time, but arrived just when we needed them the most.
They were agents of change. They were carrying everyone with them. Everywhere you looked, the world started to look different. The colors started to really emerge.
Suddenly, adults were growing their hair long. Grown-up women were wearing mini skirts. Suddenly, it was young people who were determining everything. That started with the Beatles.
They helped to move a lot of people who might not otherwise have gone along with the stuff that happened in 66 and 67 and 68.